Hey guys, it is Nadine here and I'm back with another video. Today's video, as you can probably tell by the title, it is how sew-ins broke my hair like crazy. I mentioned this in passing in like one of my previous videos. The big chop that I had to do, I put so much effort into growing my hair back, so a lot of people didn't even realize that by the time I came back on YouTube, it almost like my hair was back to the same length that it was before I had to big chop. So it was, I realized I absolutely need to go back and make a video on this just for you guys as FYI, because I had talked about having sew-ins on here as well. So I'm gonna just jump straight into it. It's gonna kind of be like a story time, kind of with also tips and tricks of how this shouldn't happen to you. Quick disclaimer before we get into it, this is not a sew-in, this is a U-part wig, which I'm also going to get into in another video about my go-to protective style now. I got my first sew-in, honestly if the dates are a bit messy in my head right now, it's because it's been a while. This is a picture of my hair just before I went and got a sew-in. So this was the blowout that I did before I went and got my hair. My hair was in a place where it was like, it was healthy, but it was getting to a point where I was using so much heat on it, teetering a little bit on the brink of like, one could maybe use a really good haircut. You guys know I style my hair a lot, which was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I want to be on a length retention journey. I'm always styling my hair because I'm always outside. I need to put my hair away for a bit to at least retain like some length. Anyways, I went, got my sew-in. I actually took that sew-in out end of February, so it might have been 8 weeks actually that I had that sew-in in, which is like kind of maybe a long time to have a protective style in. I probably wouldn't have a protective style in for like that on a normal occasion, but at that time so ideal for me to not have to deal with my hair. So I'll be honest, I probably kept my sew-in for longer than I needed to. So lesson number 2, when I eventually took my sew-in out, I'm going to insert a picture of what my hair looked like. It had snapped off like crazy, like I couldn't believe it. And bearing in mind, back then I didn't protective style often, but I would do braids, I would wigs, I would do other protective styles for shorter periods of time that I feel like were quite high tension styles, and my hair never reacted like this. Immediately when I took out my sew-in, I was like, feels like I've got a little bit less hair on my head. But that sometimes happens, you know, when you have like a wig on your head, because there's so much hair, when you go back to your natural hair, it always feels like there's less hair on your head because it's like you're used to having like bare hair on your head. I go about my wash day, I'm like, okay, the hair's feeling a little bit like there's a lot less hair on my head. I did my usual routine, I did my silk press, and I kid you not, my hair was so thin. It had broken off so much towards the end. I was just so shocked that one sew-in had that drastic impact from like, imagine like having from this before to this after in literally the space of 2 months. I always feel like sometimes it's okay to do certain styles in moderation because it's not gonna like completely damage your hair in one go. So I styled my hair, and for a couple of days I was pondering what to do. I was thinking, is it that bad? Is it that? It came to a point where I was like, you know what, let me go and get a haircut. So I went to the hairdresser. This was a new hairdresser as well that I went to, and she was literally like, she was like, yeah, you're gonna need to take a lot off. So my hair had grown, but obviously the length retention was not there because it was breaking off at the rate of which it was growing. While she's cutting my hair, I was thinking, okay, so I'm probably gonna have to cut my hair to maybe like mid-back length. So she's cutting, and all of a sudden I can feel her scissors here, like at my shoulders, and I'm thinking, your scissors are awfully high considering my hair was like down here when I came in here, right? Thinking, what's going on? The haircut happens now. She pulls my hair forward, and I kid you not, my hair was like here. It was giving bob, it was giving big chop, it was giving all the dead ends that needed to get got. To be honest, I wasn't mad at it because I was like, you know what, my hair looks so much better now. I've lost like a majority of my length, but my hair looks good as hell. Your hair looks better when it's healthier, regardless of what length your hair is. It just looks better when it looks healthier. This was my hair when I left the hair salon. It was giving kind of long bob, it was giving kind of, you know, shoulder, maybe just in between, I'd say in between shoulder and armpit length. It was probably about here, not quite armpit. I actually want to tell you guys a few mistakes that I made that actually I think were a big contributing factor to the fact that sew-ins completely broke my hair. It's not that I think sew-ins are bad, I just think that when you are doing a protective style like that, you have to be careful with something. First mistake that I made, I kind of touched on a little bit at the start, is I didn't get a trim before doing my hair. Anytime you're going into any kind of protective style, honestly, you want to make sure you're starting with a good, healthy base. So like my cut hair would have been a good base to go into protective style with, because that's strong hair, it's healthy hair, it can withstand the tension a little bit better than hair that's like already weak. Just make sure that your hair is like in a really healthy state and trim. Second mistake that I made was the braiding pattern of my sewing. But the braiding pattern of your sewing, I have since learned, is a really key. So the braiding pattern that I had, I don't have a picture of me with it, but I have a picture of the typical braiding style that I had, which is the pattern that most people get. It's like the straight backs and then it's like tied up at the back here. That braiding pattern actually puts a lot of tension on your hair, because as your hair grows, as your hair grows, it actually increases the tension, because your hair can't grow upwards like it wants to. It ends up getting pulled in different directions as it's growing because of the way that braiding pattern is. So the longer you keep it in and the more your hair grows, the more the tension is on your hair and on your scalp. The reason why I know this is a huge contributing factor is because I did actually get a sew-in again another time, and I had a completely different braiding pattern, and the outcome was night and day different. The braiding pattern that is the best if you are going to get a sew-in is like a basket style braiding pattern that goes like around your head basically, so that when your hair is kind of growing underneath, or even if you wash your cornrows or your cornrows get wet, your hair grows upwards and outwards, and it's not being pulled in all different directions. It's being pulled in the direction that it's naturally growing in anyway. What mistake is that now? I think it's number 3. What are we on? 3, 4, 5? Okay, let's stop counting. The next mistake was that I did not use a net. I keep saying I, or the person who did my hair, but I should have phrased it at the time. A net is actually going to help to also take some of the weight of the hair that you're going to sew onto. Again, decrease the amount of tension, the amount of weight, and in turn decrease the amount of breakage that you get on your natural hair. So if you're getting a sew-in, I feel like this one goes without being said, it's probably like duh, get a net. Next mistake that I kind of touched on as well is I left that in for like 8 weeks. That was a long time to have a sew-in, and I'm such a strong believer in not keeping protective styles in for longer than 3-4 weeks. So in summary, I don't necessarily think it was like one thing, or that sew-ins are bad and sew-ins break your hair and sew-ins this. It's just numerous contributing factors that led to me having extreme breakage from having sew-ins that made me just think, you know what, I'm just not gonna do sew-ins anymore. And after that big chop time, I was so big and heavy on my length retention that I was like, I need to find a protective style where I can put my hair under, do my scalp care routine, and grow my hair back to where it was before. And yeah, within a few months, I would say it's been about like I would say it's been about 6 months since that time, and my hair has pretty much regained its length back to what it was pre-sew-in length, which I'm really happy about. And I feel like what I'm doing now in terms of protective styling is definitely working for my goal, which is length retention. So definitely need to make a video with you guys on that, because you guys can see what that I've got a new go-to protective style. So yeah, my next video is going to be talking all about my go-to protective style, my new protective style, and how I'm actually maintaining my hair underneath, and how I've managed to regain my inches back expeditiously. Yeah guys, that was my little sew-in horror story. But yeah, I just thought I would share that with you guys for your own learnings as well. You learn from my mistakes, so you don't have to do the same thing. So yeah guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.